Did you know that 90% of people are using Seedance 2.0 completely wrong? And the reason is that most of them try to generate cinematic videos without having the right assets that allow this model to show its full potential. But there is a simple workflow I found that fixes exactly that, and the difference in what comes out is not even close. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 4 steps to follow and get cinematic videos out of Seedance 2 every single time without fail. The platform I'll be using to access Seedance 2 is called Higgsfield, which is an all-in-one tool that gives us access to everything we'll need for this workflow. If you want to follow along, I've left a link for Higgsfield in the description below. What sets Seedance 2 apart is its multimodal input system. That means you are not limited to a single text prompt. You can feed it text, reference images, video, and audio all at the same time, and it uses all of that information together to shape the output. On top of that, it understands cinematic camera direction written directly into the prompt. It also generates native audio that is synced to the visuals. So the sound in your scene is not something you layer in afterwards. It comes out of the generation itself. And the way it handles physics makes the motion feel real in a way that most generators just can't keep up with. Now, to show you everything this model can actually do, we are not just going to generate random clips, but we're going to build a complete cinematic project with a story, consistent characters, and location. The scene is a late-night breakdancing cypher inside an underground warehouse where our main character steals the spotlight. The first thing we need before any of that is a script, so you can either write one yourself or use a chatbot to write one for you. To show you the complete workflow, I'll use Claude to generate a script for our project. I'll paste in my scene description and let it build out the full dialogue and story beats. The script it gives me back is simple, but it carries the whole scene. Now that we have our story, the next step is creating the resources we need to ensure that Seedance 2 can create cinematic visuals. And this is the step that most tutorials skip completely, which is exactly why most people's outputs do not look like what they were hoping for. That's why we need a consistent location and characters for our project. Our story requires 2 characters, and we're going to create them in different ways. Let's start with the first character. I will make her based on me, so I am going to use Higgsfield's character feature to create a consistent AI version of myself. If you want to create someone who's not based on a real person, I'll show you how with our next character. At the top of the page, click on Character, then Create Character. This is where I'll upload reference photos of myself. Make sure they're clear, well-lit shots from different angles. With these, Higgsfield will train a character model based on my face. I'll name her Isa and let it process. Once it is done, I have a consistent character that I can drop into any scene and she will look the same every single time. Now she needs to be dressed for the part. I'll go into the image generator, select Nano Banana 2 as my model, upload my character, and run this prompt. She looks exactly the same, but this time in an outfit that will match the scene. Now let's create our second character. And since they don't actually exist, I am building them from scratch. For this, go to Cinema Studio 3.0, which you will find in the main navigation at the top of the page. Once you're inside, make sure you're in image mode, then I click on character. I'll paste in my prompt and generate. He comes back looking exactly like I described. The energy is right, the details are there. That is our hype man. Now let's do the location. We stay inside Cinema Studio and switch over to location. Same process, just write your prompt and generate. The image that comes back has everything I asked for: the graffiti, the industrial ceiling, and the concrete floor catching the colored light. It looks like somewhere a cipher would actually happen. Now, after you generate each of these assets, you need to check eligibility on each one, whether it is a character or a location. This is what makes them available to use as reference images inside Seedance 2.0. Not every generation will come back as eligible on the first try, so if it does not pass, just regenerate until you get one that does. It is worth the extra attempt because clean eligible assets going into the video generation make a real difference in the output. We have all our assets eligible and saved, and now we are about to find out what Seedance 2.0 actually does when you give it everything it needs. To get into the video generation workflow, go back to the main Higgsfield page. Click on Video at the top and select Seedance 2.0 as your model. Before I start creating, I'll go to Upload Media and I check eligibility for each of my 3 assets. Once they are confirmed, approved, I'll set the duration to 15 seconds and I am ready to go. We are building this project in 4 segments. Each one is 15 seconds and together they tell a full story. Let's start with our establishing shot. We are setting the scene, introducing both characters and building the tension before anything else happens. I'll upload the images of our characters and location, paste in my prompt, and generate. What comes back already feels like the opening of a short film. The crowd feels alive and the camera movement on Isa as she steps forward establishes her as the main character. However, her hair looks a bit different from the reference image, so the consistency wasn't fully accurate. That is worth knowing going in. Seedance 2.0 holds the overall scene together really well, especially for longer clips than usual, but fine details like hair can drift slightly from one generation to the next. It is not a deal breaker when you are cutting between segments, but it is something to factor in when you are choosing which generations to keep. Now let's make our next segment where Isa is inside the circle. This scene will require much harder movement, so let's see if Seedance 2.0 can live up to it. I'll keep the same reference images and settings and paste in my prompt. This one is way better. Her hair is back to normal and the movement feels way more natural. What really surprised me is how the environment with all these elements manages to stay consistent. The camera movement is exactly what I asked for, and it gives the whole thing a cinematic weight that a static shot would just not have. The crowd behind her is blurred just enough to keep the focus on Isa without losing the atmosphere of the space. The third segment is the most challenging one yet, because it requires movement that most generators would fail to create. Let me generate to show you what I mean. And I'm going to be honest, this segment took a few tries. A windmill into a headspin is the kind of motion that breaks most AI video models because it contains too many moving parts, lots of speed, and generally too much happening at once. However, this one genuinely impressed me with how it can keep up with complicated movements while maintaining pretty good consistency. The audio is also very good, which helps the scene feel more alive. Finally, we have our last segment, which is the payoff. I want this shot to feel like a climax, so I'll write my prompt to do exactly that. And this is exactly what I was hoping for. The time freeze effect builds up tension, and when Isa lands her finishing move, the hype man and the crowd erupt. The audio is what really sells it. The beat dropping to silence right as she locks into the freeze, and then the crowd explosion hitting at the same time as the bass kicks back in is something I did not expect to land as cleanly as it did. Now we have 4 segments with multiple generations and a complete story from start to finish. But individual clips are not a finished video, so let's create one. I'll take all my clips into CapCut and go through each generation to pull the strongest moments from each segment. And when it all comes together, what you are looking at is not a demo. It is a finished cinematic scene with consistent characters across 4 separate generations, real audio that syncs to the action, and a story that actually lands from the first frame to the last. Let's take a look at our final result.
Yo, who got next?
I got next.
What up, Issa? What up, what up, what up?
Oh, yeah, she's feeling it.
The character consistency might not always be the greatest, but the fact that Seedance 2.0 was even able to keep up with so many elements, fast movements, and create long clips is genuinely impressive. Most generators would fail to deliver on one of those things. With this workflow, you can use Seedance 2.0 to create videos that actually tell a story. Not just a single impressive clip, but a full scene with consistent characters, real audio, and intentional camera work from beginning to end. If you want to start creating at this level today, click the link in the description and sign up for Higgsfield. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.